Ranking every subclass in D&D, Monk. The Monk is a martial arts wielding class that gains a bunch of interesting features, none of them more useful than one extremely powerful ability in particular, Stunning Strike. People often place them low on the totem pole, but this one ability can completely foil encounters. Anyways, let's get started with Ascendant Dragon. These martial artists channel the teachings of Bahamut to attack with elemental damage and replace an attack with an area of effect attack that scales with their martial arts die. At later levels, they can frighten enemies, give allies damage resistance, and even deal greater AoE damage. Due to the versatility of damage types this class can choose to deal and resist, as well as the amount of times they get to use those abilities, this class goes into S tier. Way of the Astral Self. These meditative warriors channel a part of their astral self. Initially, they gain 5 feet of reach to their melee attacks, can choose to use Wisdom mod to attack, damage, and in place of strength checks and saving throws. It only takes 1 key point and lasts 10 minutes. At later levels, while the astral form is active, they gain bonuses to ability checks, Dark Vision, additional damage, damage reduction, an AC bonus, and an extra attack on top of the 4 they can already make per turn. The range, damage, stuns, and defensiveness of this class, while heavily relying on Wisdom, puts it in A tier. Way of the Drunken Master. This woozy-boozy whirlwind utilizes a staggering fighting style to throw off opponents. They essentially gain the mobile feat at the cost of key points. At later levels, they gain a few situational combat techniques, can cancel disadvantage at the cost of key, and gain an additional attack at the cost of key. The Drunken Monk can be good in the correct situations, and with a highly intentional player, but their abilities drain your ki very quickly, putting them at C tier. Way of the Four Elements. Water, Earth, Fire, Air. This cheap Avatar knockoff tries to master the 4 elements. The 4 Elements monk can use ki to cast a very limited variety of spells. Their ki costs are very expensive, and they can only learn an extremely limited amount. It feels like the game is punishing you when you play this class. E tier. Way of the Kensei. Many people forget that all monks get access to monk weapons, but this class specializes in them. This subclass can utilize martial arts weapons as monk weapons, and gains bonuses including increased damage and AC. At later levels, they can give their weapons bonuses to hit, increase their accuracy, and make their weapons magical. This class is fairly straightforward, but doesn't really stand out from other monk subclasses. C tier. Way of the Long Death. The Way of the Long Death monks study death obsessively, including indulging in hands-on learning. At 3rd level, they gain temporary HP when reducing a target to 0 hit points. At later levels, they can frighten an unlimited amount of times, escape death with no limit or action except for the expenditure of a key point, and at their capstone, deal up to 20 d10 necrotic damage as an action. The lack of limits on this class is actually confusing to me, and in the hands of a right player, it could be a nightmare for DMs. A tier. Way of Mercy. These masked healers use their knowledge of ki to bring life and death. They gain bonus proficiencies to Insight, Medicine, and the Herbalism Kit, and can heal and deal additional damage in the same turn. At later levels, they can end conditions on allies, cause the poison condition to enemies without a saving throw, heal and harm to much greater degrees without expending ki, and even revive the dead. This class is super fun to play thematically, and a great aid to the party. They provide constant heals and damage, but not necessarily a lot at one time. B tier. Way of the Open Hand. These masters of hand-to-hand combat utilize techniques centered around their Flurry of Blows feature to disrupt the enemy in some way, knocking them prone, taking away their reactions, or pushing them back. At later levels, they can heal themselves and gain the benefits of the Sanctuary spell. However, the best part of this subclass is at 17th level, when they can use 3, count them 3 key points to kill a creature if they fail the con save. That's almost like a wizard being able to cast Power Word Kill with a 2nd level spell slot. However, since they get this at 17th level and the remainder of the subclass abilities leave something to be desired, Open Hand goes in B tier. Way of the Shadow. These stealthy monks can cast spells using ki, and at 3rd level, they're already better than any 4 Elements monk. At later levels, they can teleport using a bonus action and gain advantage on the next attack, become invisible, make special opportunity attacks. Their ability to cast the Silence spell and added mobility of teleportation on top of an already very mobile character is good, but they do lack additional sources of damage in their own, which lands them in B tier. Way of the Sun Soul. On the opposite end, the Sun Soul monk channels life energy to create ranged bolts of radiant damage. At later levels, they can cast Burning Hands, cast a worse fireball, and become a Human Torch, which deals a small amount of damage as a reaction. The concept of this class is awesome, but it falls short in keeping up with casters and other monk classes, putting it in C tier.